God informs us something. He makes an interesting comparison about corruption, right? The corruption of man is being of flesh, man. But he makes a comparison with earth. Why does he do that?
Yeah, for the earth is filled with violence.
Yeah, the earth's filled with violence, but all flesh is corrupt.
Through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Right. And all of a sudden, wait a minute. The earth's corrupt? How did it get corrupt?
What is it that they could have done to make the earth be corrupt?
Yeah, and the other point is, why does he even allude to the fact, why does he bring in the idea of flesh being corrupted with that of the earth being corrupted? That's really the question. There are what we call social natural norms, right? Now, the social natural norms is what keeps societies going on. Under the categories of the 7 laws, these natural norms, by the way, would be things that every society, by using their own sense of rational reasoning, would eventually come to maintain a healthy society. In other words, they would come up with the idea we shouldn't be killing each other, right? We shouldn't be stealing from each other. Neither should we be involved in adultery, any kind of illicit type sex. But primarily we just choose the word adultery, taking another man's wife. Those are kind of social norms, natural norms. And these would be the norms that even ancient kind of pre-mortal societies would have come up with on their own if they were going to exist as a people. You can't have a great city with people killing each other, because eventually, number one, people are going to leave the city, or number two, you're not going to have a city.
Well, it's again the point of these being the minimal requirement to merit life.
Exactly.
Based on the judgment of God.
Right.
Our actions of breaking these laws in a societal point of view, from a society point of view, is the factor is that you break them and it ruins the society machine.
Exactly.
One cog of the machine messes up, and then the other cog does it too, and then the other one does it, and then before you know it, you have a broke down machine. So again, it's not just society, but the whole universe seems to work under laws.
Exactly.
So what makes anyone think that our part of this universe shouldn't?
Exactly.
And if there is a law, is it what law is better? The one that's man given, or the one that's God given, or creator given, however you want to put it?
Right.
The point is that this text shows us that we do have a certain way to live by, and all it takes is one to sit down and read it and study it, and it will give you that merit for life based on these. Because it's like you said, it's not belief or whatever. That's our own individual personal journey. Whereas the way we behave happens to be that part of society that's mandatory in order for society to exist.
Right. And in some sense, by the way, from the creation of Adam until now, man has always stood in a covenant relationship with God. And that covenant relationship means the Creator says, I want you to do something. I want you to live a certain life. And man lives that life. Mm-hmm. And so if we have this covenant relationship, which we do, and then again, even after the flood, that covenant is revamped, not in the sense of the laws being revamped, but reestablished with mankind. Because at one point, as he says, they've broken the everlasting covenant. So the covenant has to be reinforced once again with humanity after the flood, which we call that, the covenant that God makes with Noah, the Noahide covenant. But man's always had this covenant identity with God from the very beginning, with Adam all the way up through to where we're sitting at today. Man still stands in covenant relationship with God. And because we do, the Creator has the right to demand that we live a certain way. And He's going to tell us what that way is. So even though we can't go to a the written text of the Torah. We can't just go there and say, okay, here's the list of the 7. But what we can do, based on this little unknown passage from Isaiah 24:5, what we can do, we can go back and we can say, okay, it is for sure that Isaiah the prophet knew about these, right? Why? Because he tells us they violate them. And what happens again is in the Genesis passages, it doesn't give us a list of them, but it gives us a list of the violations, right? So in the days of Enosh, they violated an individual beliefs, right? In other words, all of a sudden this individual belief about having true beliefs and true concepts of God, which is kind of an individual thing, and we see Noah still maintained those while the rest of the society had left them. It began the days of Enosh. It began with the wise men too, by the way. And then we find out in the days prior to the flood that we have these great men that's supposed to have been the judges, the rulers, the powerful, the elite, the wise, if you want to call them that. They should have been instituting laws that really brought about justice and curbed man's passion, as God had given the ability to do that, because they're to establish courts of justice, which means you establish laws that actually ensure that everybody gets justice. Rather than doing that, they actually establish laws that make it more beneficial for them to get what they want. It doesn't curb their passion, it doesn't curb their desires, and actually allows their desires and their passions to be fulfilled any way they want. And so we see that in the fact that they took for themselves wives. They're just whatever passions drive them, whatever they want. And they'll make a law that says it's okay for them to do that. And so he brings up they broke the ordinance, right? And then that third thing that Isaiah brings up, which is as we say, the straw that broke the camel's back, individual beliefs and, the injustice, but it's the social norms, right? Murder, theft, adultery, promiscuous sexual activity. And the reason, by the way, we want to get back to this, the reason we say that he, in the passage in Genesis, talks about these 3 corruptions, and the final one he makes the analogy of the earth, as you spoke about. The earth has natural laws that govern it. And that's why he brings up the fact that this final corruption falls in the same category. These natural laws that men, that all civilizations eventually would have come to on their own, such as don't kill each other, especially murder. Don't murder each other, and don't steal from each other, and don't take somebody's wife. Don't commit adultery, because that will just rip society apart. You cannot establish society without those 3 bottom principles being in existence in some form or some fashion. And we see this, by the way, in different civilizations, that they've always understood this. Yeah, they might not get the God thing right.
I was going to say something about that if you'll give me a second. Yeah. I find it very interesting that even though the ultimate goal is the recognition of God, when he judged man at the time of the flood, according to the text, that's not even why, in essence...
No, if he'd done that, he'd died in the days of Enosh.
Yeah, it was not necessarily a need for him to say, look at me. It was more so, how dare you not to live, in what I've given you.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because everybody has this idea. A lot of people have this idea that, well, the ultimate goal is to know God. Yes, I understand that, and I agree with that. But what happens to the person who chooses not to, necessarily accept that God exists and all this stuff, but they want to live a good life? How can they live a good life? Well, that's the interesting about the 7 laws, is that the 7 laws has both the spiritual and that which is physical. The physical part is for those individuals who see a benefit in following these laws for the sake of humanity living a survival life. they can do that. And your hope is that they will also reach to the higher level of the understanding of Allah, which is that which is the spiritual side, which recognizes God and